Okay, so we didn't always used to run this session first, but the feedback that we got years and years ago was that people could have used the skills the whole way through. So we've now moved it to before the actual launch, because as you know, the launch, we've got more people coming, and probably they're your senior leaders from all the different organisations. So we hope that this kind of kick-starts your networking in the best possible way by pretty much putting you in front of the best of industry this evening. So with that firmly in your mind, we're going to run through some techniques, we're going to look at some tools. We're also going to talk about some do's and don'ts. I think networking can be a little bit misunderstood. And there are some, I guess another way of saying it is we base everything on psychology, neurology and science, so of connections. So the stuff that I'm going to go through today, hopefully it'll make a lot of sense to you, and it'll become part of how you then, I guess, apply your own personal networking strategy. So again, everything you're learning can be used in any relationship. It's just that we've taken a professional take to it today, obviously being part of a network. But just remember, you can use this pretty much in all your communications. And the same thing goes for what we're talking about. So I'm going to talk to you in a networking environment, so when you're meeting people, but again, you can use it phone calls, meetings, presentations, that type of thing, again, because it's based on psychology, neurology and science. So hopefully you find it very useful, and hopefully you can utilise these skills for evermore, pretty much, in your career. They're really good life skills as well. So just to explain, I only launched Relatus this year. I used to run an organisation called Business Networking Academy. The reason for the rebrand is because I was running the other one for 12 years now, and a lot of my clients are moving more and more into, I guess, the focus being on relationships, and they always have, but it's that connection between activity, so what we're actually doing throughout the year and the opportunities that we've got, versus the actual outcomes. So if you marry the two, the activity is the networking, but the outcome is the network. So a lot more of my work these days focuses on the network, so that's the result of the activity. And the reason we're looking at it as your human capability is because, as you know, everything's getting digitised, you've got globalisation, we've got all the technological changes. So there's a lot of competition in terms of our jobs pretty much, and what we're going to end up doing in those jobs. So this is one thing that you can be very sure is an area that will give you a leg up, and it'll give you a huge advantage, because the skills that we're going to be talking about today can't be done by robots or AI or anyone else, and they might try, but at the end of the day, people buy people, and in the projects that you guys work in, and in some of the spaces that you're collaborating with other organisations, that's going to come down to the individual relationships, and again, that's the advantage today for you to take forward. So pretty much they say EI is one of the top 5 skills you'll need for the future. So emotional intelligence. So again, coming down to how you utilise and manage emotions. And a lot of that comes down to, communication skills and relationship strategies. Okay, so that said, that's a little bit of an overview. These are some of the clients that we've worked with. So a lot of organisations take these skills exceptionally seriously, as you know, there's a big customer focus out there. There's also a big focus on employee experience. So we've always looked at holistic relationships, so internal and external. We've never just done a focus on one group. Again, because your network encompasses everyone. So if you think about it, if this is you, what we do is social skills, soft skills, emotional skills, and then how you apply them. Corporate functions and hospitality. So whose organisation here hosts client events, or has people coming to your offices for functions, beer nights, Friday night drinks, that type of thing? Yeah. Who here belongs to an industry body or a professional group? Absolutely. And you do, and your company does, right? Often is in the case, yeah. Okay, so as you can imagine, from a company perspective, they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars just on those memberships. That doesn't even include the time or the individual cost every time you go. So just the memberships alone, if you add them all up, is a huge spend. And then sponsorships and trade shows. So whose organisation sponsors something? It could even be local community stuff, all the way up through to trade shows and having has anyone been to a trade show where you manned a booth? Fun, huh? And you know what? A lot of that, so I know organisations that have spent, you know, over 100 grand, 200 grand just on the build of the stand, but they never actually taught their people how to connect. So big waste of money. So what we're going to look at in terms of this external focus is some of the techniques that you would utilise and apply to these things. And then you've obviously got your internal engagement as well, so your client engagement, which is a day-to-day thing, and some of that crosses over here. Your organisation, so some of you are from small, some of you are from medium or large. All those internal relationships are really important, and often you won't be able to get what you need done for a client if it doesn't happen, you know, the people internally aren't doing the right thing. So a good focus there. And then if you take that kind of 2 steps further, then you've got your suppliers. So they're not clients, but stakeholders being suppliers and other industry contacts. So as you can see, a network can be quite large, and it's not until you take stock of it that you realise what impact you have and I guess what else you could be doing to maximise that. Right, so that's kind of the view that we take. So that said, I just want to get a love-hate type feel in the room. So networking, just black or white question. You can only answer one way or the other. Love it is going to be a hands up. Hate it is going to be a hands up. Okay? All right, networking, love it. Networking, hate it. Okay, cool. Anyone that said love, do you care to explain why?
Just like meeting new people, really.
Yeah, cool. So it's is it social for you or just?
Yeah, well, it focuses mainly around social, but if you can gain a business connection out of it, it's just a plus.
Okay, good. Thanks. Who else said love that wants to explain?
Learn stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Benchmarking, knowledge sharing.
And I mean, at the end of the day, you have to sell something.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I like that. Anyone else?
Oh, yeah, I suppose context, like some networks can be quite, like if I go barbecue, that's networking, but small talk can get a bit much, you know. But in other aspects, it's good, you meet people, you know, and then whatever it leads to, business-wise, but I think relationship-wise can overpower business-wise.
Okay.
Makes sense,
Yeah.
It's not all about
So,
business.
how many people here do some kind of business development as part of their role? About half-ish. We kind of all do if you work for a company, but I meant directly, yeah. Okay, great. So, hate it. Why? Is that why you're sat with two spaces? Kind of move over.
I'm just shy, so I find it very hard to.
Okay. Yeah, and I've got a lot of strategies for shy people because I find if we team you up with an extrovert, you know, you're never going to hear from you, and the extrovert's going to dominate, and the extrovert's going to go, I'm so awesome at this. And I feel like there's a bit of a scale there because I think extroverts can make really bad networkers, and then really strong introverts can make very bad networkers. So we almost today want to find the happy medium where we're not dominating, but we're also not saying anything. So there are some strategies we can talk about to help you feel more comfortable. Speaking of comfort levels, does anyone freak out, have a little bit of a kind of worry before you arrive at something? What am I doing here? What am I, all those thoughts and feelings and things that go on in your head?
I think it's fair to say I said yes to networking, but even though I said yes, I still can kind of get a little bit, okay, well, who's going to be in the room?
Yeah.
But I'm okay with that.
Okay, good. All right. So who else said hate it and why? Yes.
I'm probably a bit cynical, but I tend to find it's fairly disingenuous. It carries the illusion of mutual altruism, but more often than not, it's purely like blood from a stone transaction. As I said, that's
I asked. It's okay. Yeah, cool. And that can happen. I've been to things where you haven't even met them. The person hasn't even introduced themselves, and they're like, "Can I have your card?" And I'm just like, "I don't even know your name." And then it's just a real trying to find it. So I do think there are people out there that operate in that way, and that can turn the rest of us off. Okay, who else? Hate. Tell me why. but you're not home yet.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
but that's fine.
Yeah,
I
right.
find it exhausting because
Exhausting,
I do all
good.
day.
Yeah. So sometimes that can happen, right? Can I ask you how many events you might go to in a month?
3.
Okay, all right, cool. All industry professional or varied?
Mixture.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Someone else was going to say something, so I'm going to grab it with the hate comment. Hate's really strong, I get that, but you know, it helps. It helps to.
People.
If you
Just don't like people.
maybe you'll end up in the pod with the robots down the track. Yeah, true.
Like,
Yeah.
I actually don't say that all together in jest.
Yeah.
I for a lot of people they don't like.
And it's hard work, don't you think? Like, if you go to something, like who arrived here today without a colleague? So it's just you from your organisation. Oh, that's pretty high. Okay. So that's kind of daunting in itself, isn't it? Because half the time if we go with someone, what do we end up doing? Are you guys from the same company?
Yeah.
You know, they arrive, they sit down. Now, we won't let them, but, you know, if this was a normal networking event, they'd probably hang out all night together and then go.
We've been told not to, so.
On the way here. Yeah. And look,
Yeah.
already you sat next to each other. But how common is that, right? This is called comfort zone. So if already something's going to be a bit daunting, how do I reduce that? Well, I look for things that are more comfortable, like sticking to someone I know. Or when I arrive and I know someone and I just cling to them, you know? So all that's normal, but I guess I'm here to challenge a few behaviours. Because I actually think we waste, you and your organisations waste a lot of time and money networking. You know, because if you're going to do that for 2 hours, you may as well have gone for a quiet drink together. You know, so from my perspective, and I've got a sponsorship background, so I've watched billions of dollars go down the tube by sponsors. And from my perspective, I think, well, if you're going to do it, then let's do it properly, or don't do it at all. And I feel like we can find a little bit of a happy medium with you guys. So what I'm saying is, I'm not saying accept every invitation and go networking, it's awesome, it's the best thing you'll ever do. What I am saying though is, if you're quite strategic or I guess you're very selective into where you go, who you meet, what you do, then it could be very advantageous for you and your career. Is that a fair compromise? Okay. So I guess for the haters, I need to prove in the next 2 hours that it's actually really good for you. And those that love it, I will hopefully refine, you know, some of the skills and strategies that you're doing so that you get better outcomes. Is that fair enough? All right. So that was basically saying that most people's existing networks don't support the results they need. Okay, and a lot of people go through their entire careers not sitting down and reflecting the way we're doing now on who is in their network. Like, I've had people in their 60s or 70s come to a course of ours and do a mapping activity on strength and end up in tears because there's relationships that they lost 20 years ago. I've specifically had people in your industry kick themselves because coming out of uni, they were good mates with so-and-so and so-and-so who now is the CEO of PB, and they've lost contact and they feel like they can't now pick that up because there's a reason why they're doing that. So I guess if we just put a little bit more thought into it, then that network or the relationships that we have will hopefully be aligned to our, not only our job description, but our career plan. Okay? So obviously relationships are important. They're only going to get more important as we progress. Like I said, with digitisation and globalisation, these are all things that are going to challenge how we work. So these skills are really going to help set you apart. So technically you've already, and some of you that are from a technical side, you need that anyway. That's never going to change. But how do you communicate that? How do you influence? How do you persuade? That all comes to these soft skills. And we know also that a lot of information is shared through networks. So you talked about benchmarking and knowledge sharing. Even the job market, you know, there's a stat that's 80% of jobs are hidden. So they're never ever advertised. So if you think about that, like that comes through your network. A lot of opportunities, you know, a tender or a project or something comes through you having a beer with someone and they're going, oh, we're doing this, and you go, oh, okay, that's interesting because we were going to, and then the next thing you know, there's an opportunity. In fact, I don't know if they tell you the stats here, but in the last 3 years, there's been a lot of business won by people that have met on this program. You know, because you're going to spend a lot of time together. So this then forms part of your network. So if you look at it that way, I think it will make a little bit more sense to you why you'd want to invest in it, rather than it being a one-off 2-hour thing that you go and do. So the whole, I guess, structure of organisations has changed as well. So you may have noticed they've flattened quite a lot. And we don't necessarily have the same hierarchies. We don't have the same job titles. It's not as important. Like these days, if you want access to someone, often or not, you can get that access. It doesn't come back to you going to your manager, them going to that, and then that one. So we've already seen a big shift in the last 10 years. And the idea is that a networked organisation, the connections look something like that, which I get is totally messy, but that's the point, right? So we're saying it's not about hierarchies, it's actually about influence. And this is why your individual networks are so important, because this is what gets you the promotions, this is what gets you the jobs, this is what wins you the clients, etc. So worth thinking about and applying to what you do. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. In the workshop today, we've got 3 parts. We are actually going to map, because I think it's really useful for you to have a starting point and understand your world. Okay, so we will do some network mapping, but we'll just do it as a brainstorm, a bit of a like a mind map. Has anyone done a mind map before, just with ideas? Yeah, so this one will be with relationships. And then we're going to look at connections. So when I say connect there, it's how you connect. So we'll do some real techniques there. And talk about things you can do to make you more comfortable if you're not that comfortable, or to get better outcomes if you feel like there's bits that aren't working for you. Finally, it's about what you then do with it. Okay, you could learn the best things in the world, but if you don't go and apply them or have a strategy to go and put them into place, what's the point? So luckily this is a program for you, and this is the start of a year-long engagement. That in itself gives it a bit of accountability. The relationships you develop now, you can start to actually see what the potential is. But at this point in time, what we need to have is the mindset of investing and doing something with what we learn. Okay, so we'll run through all 3. You don't have tables, but are you comfortable do you have something to lean on? Maybe, yeah. So, by the way, has anyone ever mapped their network? No, and like I said, most people go throughout their whole careers never doing this. So, I look at all relationships. I like to look at networks holistically, because I think you're one person and your personal and professional sits within that. There's a very good reason for that, is because I never want anyone to put on a different persona when they're networking. Do you know how people sometimes go, right, got to go networking, so hello, hi, I'm so-and-so, and they just become someone totally different.
Do you find that part? There can be a lot of falseness in it?
Yeah, definitely. And whether that's a coping mechanism or whether they think that they should, like...
What about even the intent? Networking is to get business.
Yeah.
Like, the best mate if you're going to give them $1 million contract, but if you don't, you're the worst enemy. So
yeah.
That's what there's a lot of it.
I feel like in this country in particular, networking has a very dirty connotation. I can explain why in like 30 seconds if you want. Back in the 70s, 80s, that's when we had a very big American influence, and networking became very popular here. But networking is, we started to try and do it how the Americans do it. The thing is, culturally, we're very different, and we're not an in-your-face type, way of connecting or communicating, and it didn't work here. So a lot of, like, if you look up networking or you go, I've even been to people's talks, like a lot of networking experts popped up during the GFC, because networking became something that you needed networks. And this one woman, she basically said she was going to uncover the top, tip to succeeding in networking. And it was to get the business cards straight away in case they walk off. Took her an hour to get there to say that, and I'm in the audience just going, oh my God, what are we teaching these poor people? So a lot of things you read, like when I decided that I was going to specialise in this, a lot of stuff I read, I was like, that's not right. Very pushy, very salesy. So there is an issue in this country with how people network, and I think it's just because they've been taught in a way that works. It does work in America. You go to America and you walk up to someone and you tell them what you do and what you want from them, and they will hug you and say, hallelujah, let's work together. You know, it's just totally different. Whereas we've got a bit more of an Asian influence where everything's done very differently, and relationships definitely matter. I mean, especially, has anyone worked in Asia? Yeah, so if you think about it, we're more that way, where they won't sign a contract with you unless they've got a relationship with you. So unfortunately, we do have a bit of a pushy.
And over there, this was unbelievable how the relationships you built with them. Like it was seeing how it started and then how it finished.
Yeah.
And it's actually...
Well, that's where you will be successful, is adopting that here. Because people don't like it. People do shy away from the pushiness. Yeah.
Just touching on what you said before about falseness. Of course, there's people out there, but who are like that? But does it have to be a falseness? Maybe, like, I would say people are choosing their audience. Like, you know, if you're going to a networking, not that they're completely changing their persona, but they're just drawing upon different aspects of their personality. Like, they're not going to be like, hey mate, let's go grab a beer, all that cracking.
Oh yeah, you've definitely got to tone it to the setting. So I might speak very differently to my friends than I would in a professional environment. But okay, I had a question a few years ago from a girl doing a training that's halfway through. She just went, so what you're saying is we can be ourselves. And in my mind I was like, oh my God, who else are you going to be? And so I do feel like it's important to point out that you don't have to be someone else. People connect with you for you. You don't have to be the most charismatic person in the room. But as long as you're genuine and authentic and real, then they can connect to that. And we all have bonds that connect us. Like your question about where do you live, although not a good one to start with, is a good one because Newcastle's not that big. So if it turns out that someone lives quite close to you, subconsciously there's a bond there because we're similar. Same as if I go to the same school or uni or work at the same company, right? So bonds connect us. So where I'm getting with that is you've got to be real because there's other things that gravitate us to people. But if you put on a persona, then you'll miss that. So the way you manage it in terms of nerves and things is to make sure that you're understanding your mindset and controlling that a little bit. So by the way, the more you learn how to do this, the more comfortable you are. The more comfortable you are, the more confident you are. Like hopefully by the end of today, going to something like this won't be as daunting because you'll go, all right, well, I've been taught how to do that and I've been taught how to do that and I've been taught how to do that. So tick, I can now do this. Because no one teaches networking. That's the other thing. Everyone says you have to do it. But when I started out 12 years ago, networking was not everyone did sales training and presentation skills and negotiation skills. No one did networking. And a lot of HR people said to me, oh, you can't teach that. People can either do it or they can't. Not true. It's a learnt skill, just like every other skill. So yeah, the authentic thing is really key here. So, you'll network differently to you, and that's fine, because we don't want to all network the same. That wouldn't be, that wouldn't be real. So the reason I do personal and professional, just to come back to that, is because you're one person, and I don't want you putting on any other persona. I also feel like you should be honest to that whole network, because there are opportunities in personal and professional, and somewhere down the line, people tried to put a line between that. There is no line. There is no line. Most of my uncles are engineers. Do you think we don't talk work? It's not like I'm not going to sell to their company because they're my uncle. So somehow people have a mental thing of I can't work with people I know or that are personal friends. Not true. The more you know them, the better it is. As long as you think you're going to do a good job, as long as the company you work for is someone you respect and think they can do it, then you'd want to work with them rather than a competitor, because at least you can help them more, right? So I want to make sure that you're thinking about your whole network when we do this activity. So that's what I've got there. I've got your friends and family, your community, professional. So professional is all those industry. This is professional, right? So your HunterNet connections, any industry bodies or groups, university, further education, like anything you do there, they're not really friends and they're not really clients or anything, so they sit there. Does anyone have a mentor or advisor or several? That would sit there too. So your organisational contact is your company. Okay, so people, and I don't want you putting the whole people in your company, just the ones you work closely with. And we're not going to do this by name because obviously we'll be here for a long time. I'll show you, we'll do it by subgroups. Prospect client, again, only if you're in BD. If you're not in BD, don't do that one. Stakeholders, that could be suppliers, government, agencies, anyone else you might work with. Does that make sense? So the way you do it, I think I've got, So the way you do it is you take your main categories and then you go from there. So if, let's say that was friends and family, then I'd go, okay, are they my school friends? Are they my uni friends? So I'd have a group for each. Are they friends that I met overseas? Are they my husband's family? Are they my family? Are they my outlaws? And I'll put them all on here. Now we're not doing it by strength, but just get the major groups down, okay? So I'll give you some time to do that. You've got a blank sheet. It says notes and annotations. So just sprawl on that and you'll need more space. Go for the blank piece of paper. Put yourself in the middle and it should take about 10 minutes just to try and get all of your world on paper. So personal and professional. Do you want me to put these back up? Yeah, thought so. Oh, rookie error. Well, let's find him a pen. Okay. Did you find you missed any when you looked at someone else's and you went, oh, I don't have that? What had you missed? What had you missed? Like when you looked at someone else's and you thought, oh, I forgot to write that one down.
Missed as in forgot?
Yeah, forgot to put on yours. Oh, forgot to put down first.
Bit of both, actually.
Bit of both, and then went, oh, there's a gap.
Yeah.
Okay, what in? Just give us one example.
Like uni friends.
Okay.
I'd sort of lost touch with those guys.
Already? You guys are so young.
He's 60.
So there's some interesting stats coming out that uni leavers, so early grads, have the best networks, and it's because of that uni contact. So I also do a lot of work with 2 CEO groups, and the CEOs verify that it's their grads that are winning and bringing so much business into the firms. So it is something to really think about, because what we've measured in our research is that as people's careers progress, their professional relationships are the ones that get weaker and weaker, because you almost go for more of an internal organisational. So as you become a leader and you go up the ladder in an organisation, your external networks suffer. So it's something to be very careful of, because knowledge sharing, benchmarking, collaboration, that's all done externally. Like you bring those ideas to your organisation. So the uni and or TAFE or wherever it was, they're really important connections for your future career. And it's going to take a conscious effort by you. Otherwise, already, I don't know when you left uni, but already, if you're seeing those ties weakening, then that's not a good sign. So what else? What else had we missed or forgotten that the person next to you might have pointed out?
Like your neighbourhood.
Yeah.
I know.
Yes.
I didn't even write it down, but
Yes.
I guess I just thought of it because we were talking about how some of us missed sporting groups.
Yeah.
But the truth is, your street, you can miss.
Yeah, so I kind of put that under community, and everyone always forgets their neighbours. Oh, there you go. Yeah. Okay. Any thoughts or realisations as you were doing yours? Like as you were there jotting it down, what were you saying to yourself? What was going on in your head?
My local work life's much bigger than my family life.
Okay. All right. That's kind of typical, but yes, good to know. What else?
I think if you started applying actual names to some of these blogs, that it would get pretty big pretty quick.
Be pretty big, wouldn't it? Yep. Yes.
Some of it mixes in together, so
people from work have sort of become
Yeah.
in the friends groups.
Yep, definitely. And anyone can move, you know, or the strength of that relationship can change to become more of a friend from a professional, and that's fine. You can have overlaps there, yeah. But good to know, if you spend a lot of time with people, as you do with work people, often that's where you make some really good friends. Yep. What else? Thoughts, realizations?
The commitment levels vary enormously. Some
To the
that are fairly
relationships?
ephemeral, and
Right.
there's others that are, you know, absolutely core. But it was, I suppose, surprising mapping it out, being able to look at something, oh, that's fairly important, and then in the grander scheme, to be blunt, sorry.
Very good. Anyone else?
Kids create networks.
Yeah. So as, again, your circumstances change, this can change too. So I had dogs way before I had kids, and geez, networking at a dog park, has anyone done that? It's pretty good, you know. So you just don't know where the opportunities are, but through kids, dogs, you know, whatever your life situation, then there's opportunities there to be open to. So yeah, your networks change and broaden and open depending on mothers groups and sporting things, yours or others. Yeah. Okay. What else did we realise or kind of get a bit frightened by?
Probably the lack of probably spending time with family, knowing their networks, and
Yeah.
getting to know sort of my friends' other networks that I could.
So we call that the ripple effect.
Yeah.
So that's when your influence reaches other people's networks. Yeah, absolutely. And part of that is how you educate them on how to promote you. So one of the things I want to do in the next step is how you answer the question, what do you do? Because I think a lot of people just do that very matter of fact. So, you know, I'm a technical manager at whatever company. Or I'm a finance manager at whatever company. Like, it's just very, whereas I feel like if you can answer that question in a way that they get it, they log it, you know, and they can then say it to someone else, then you're doing yourself a favour, because then they're out there promoting you and it's easy for them to do that. So we'll look at that, because I think that's key, yeah. Okay, so if there were some gaps there that you thought, I haven't done much with that relationship or that group for a while, then you'll need to put some time into rectifying that. You don't keep all relationships all your life, though. You've got to know that. So this is all deliberate and conscious. You decide, you know, which ones you want to put the time and effort into, which ones you don't. But the key ones there, like the uni or like the further education, they've been proven to be very mutually beneficial to the people that actually put that time in.
Interesting about the uni, because a lot of people don't attend uni anymore. They attend
Yeah.
university online.
Yeah.
So I'm actually surprised at.
Yeah. So this is face to face.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like, and so, what's your name? Sorry.
Chris.
Chris did night uni, and so so he doesn't have those relationships because he came in, did a subject, went home because he'd been working all day. So obviously it'll change depending on circumstances. But those people that were immersed, that's where the bonds were created. But you do have to put the time in afterwards. Like, I left uni 22 years ago, a long time ago, and yes, that number's dwindled of the people I still know, but the people, the key ones, then they're very good friends. But I don't see them all the time. But yeah. Okay, so have you guys heard of Dunbar's number? Some people have. Okay, so Robin Dunbar is an anthropologist who famously did the research which showed that 150 is the maximum number of people our brains can have in one, like, so basically that's the number of people you can have in one network. That's the maximum number of relationships you can maintain. So it's really interesting, and if we were spending a whole day together, I'd have some footage of him. If you want to look him up, he does a really good TEDx video. It's just on YouTube. But just look up Dunbar's number, or Dunbar's 150, and you'll find him. Not the best speaker, but his stuff's really interesting. Now, that's not to say, so look here, he still says that we've got acquaintances and wider networks. right? So you know more people, but it's that core group that you're investing in that's the magic 150. And the reason I point that out now, because some of you did that and you saw that, oh, my network might be quite big. You know, so this is where I want you to actually think about, well, who do I want in it? Who can I actually manage and maintain? Because you can't manage 500. But if you stick to a really tight 150 of people that you have mutually agreed that you want to, you know, have in that network, so they have an interest in you, you have an interest in them, then that's where you'll see your network start to perform. Not just for you, for all parties, right? So just a good thing to reflect on. Now, what these other numbers represent, in case you don't ever look it up, 5 is your closest people. So if you were to look at that, there'd be 5 people there, probably a husband, wife, brother, sister, like someone, kids. You know, there's a very close unit. The next group is 15, so your next closest relationships are 15, then 50, then 150. So that's how you cluster your relationships. Now, what we found in our research is that 100 to 250 is about right. This is where people say how big their networks is. That's pretty much right. And, you know, with technology these days, we can probably do a little bit more than 150. But we'll talk about how you do it. You've got to be very careful that it's not all done online because that loses a lot of effect. And then if we were mapping it, so taking those main things, then this would be the gap analysis that you would do. So strength, that's you, that's so that friends and family, you know, your husband, wife, kids, whatever would be down there. You're, in my case, up there. I'm kidding. But it is fortunate for me that they live in the UK, so I don't really have to do much there. So then you would do it by strength. But again, I just wanted to give you a couple of ways of looking at it so that if you want to take these thoughts forward, you can do that. The mind map, though, is a really good starter for you. Okay, so Dunbar's number was pre the rise of technology, let's say. It has since been well, they've tried to dispute his findings and they haven't been able to. Mainly because he did it on the human brain. So the way that he did the research was on brains, and he actually studied the brains of apes to get a lot of his research. So it's really fascinating stuff. But they haven't been able to disprove his number despite many people trying. So it's good to know. Okay, so let's move on to relationships now and connections. Now, the most important thing here, and the reason the salesy, pushy networking doesn't work is because it's one way. Okay, it's like I lecture at uni, and first thing people come up to me, so I'm an external lecturer, I do not work for the uni, I am there for 2 hours to do one session, and then I run a activity for them, and they come up and they go, I'm interested in a job in blah, 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 can you help me? Have you not been listening to anything I've just said? Right? That's so one way. You know, it's just like, what do I want? I'm going to ask everyone. I'm not going to qualify it. I don't know. So one way is probably how a lot of networking does happen. It's also how a lot of communication happens. So if you think about it, someone gives you a call, I need those numbers by Friday. Right? I want you to do this for me. Like a lot of times, communication is just very take. So there's a whole thing there about shifting from one way to two way. Two way means you meet in the middle. Okay? And just from a communication perspective, it's saying something and making sure it's understood and heard and getting the feedback. So not just saying something and leaving it. So there's all these information about money lost, you know, millions of dollars of money lost in meetings, ineffective meetings. That pretty much comes down to the difference between this and this. So same for relationships. So what we want to do is look at two-way. Now, the reason that's really important is we're going from what you know to who knows you to who's promoting you. So that ripple effect, the influence, we want to make sure that everyone in our, let's call it the 150, the magic number. Imagine if all those people knew how to educate you and promote you. Imagine what a difference that would make to your career or your life. Because I'm not just talking like client referrals, I'm talking restaurants and holidays and gifts, and it's everything. You know? So it impacts all of it if you've got people that are in the know that are helping you. Okay, so that means we look at two-way strategic relationships. I might keep going. So let's now break it up. We'll do non-verbal and verbal. All right? Why do you think I'm doing non-verbal first? So think about going to a networking event. You communicate. There's non-verbal, verbal. Why do you think I want to tackle non-verbal first? Yeah, because most of the time people have made a decision about you before you've even spoken. Now, if I showed up here in the clothes that I drove up to Newcastle in, you wouldn't take me seriously, right? That's how much we make decisions on non-verbal cues. Same with, apologies I was late because I had all sorts of dramas. What I would have loved to have done is stood at the door for most of your entrances, but the ones that I did, I was trying to pick up your non-verbal cues, and many of you walked past me even though I said hello to you without looking. So you might have muttered hello. Does anyone remember who they were? I won't point you out. But if you did, just have a quiet word to yourself for a second. Because I stood there and I said hello and you went, yeah, and walked in. So non-verbal, I can make an assumption right there. And you've made an assumption right there. Okay, so non-verbal, we're making decisions pretty quickly. So from a networking perspective, what do you think we need to get right first? Tonight, we're about to meet, and double us in numbers. We're about to meet some influencers from around town, from all your top companies. What do we need to get right? Yeah, so let's assume everyone's dressed professionally, I hope so. But that is one. Yeah. That is one. But let's think about our behaviours. So non-verbally, what do we need to be? Posture, okay? What else? Can you read green from back there? Okay.
Eye contact.
Yay! Why? To show you're present, right? The amount of people that shake hands or have a conversation without actually looking at the person, it's total disengagement. The message that you're sending to the other person is, I'm not interested. But it happens all the time. So that's a really good one. I'm going to come back to that. What else? Think about non-verbal. Yeah, smile. Why?
You're happy to be here.
Yeah, right? So your state of mind and what's going on with you is represented, I guess, by how you present. So one of those things is smile. Yeah, definitely. Okay, what else?
Open palms.
Explain.
Clenched fist suggests aggression, hostility.
Yep. So like this?
Not about it, but you want to exude quite confidence without coming across as either overbearing or withdrawn.
Yeah, so probably the way to think about it is don't do closed gestures, because too open might not suit, but closed, like fists closed in a pocket, definitely would be wrong. Now people judge body language, so don't move. Everyone have a look here. We've got to lean back, we've got the arm like this, and we've got this, right? Now, how would you judge that?
Relaxed.
Very good. Thinking, reflecting, right? So this doesn't necessarily mean not interested or not listening. This could mean it's comfortable. So you've just got to be careful when you are judging body language to look at all the cues. So I'll explain that a little bit more in a minute. So one-off gestures don't necessarily mean something, if that makes sense. Okay, what else?
Handshake.
Yes. Yes. So no dead fish, did you say? Oh, that one? Do people still do that? Yeah? Okay, so who's had an example of like the bone cruncher? All right. Who's had an example of the, I think, wet fish or dead fish? I don't know what you call it. Wet,
dead.
yeah, dead. Yeah, I call it. Okay. What's the other one? Who's had the whole doesn't even look at you, like, you know, or looking past you as they enter a room? Yeah. Like, who else can I be talking to? Or the dominant. Okay. Has everyone heard about dominant? So that and submissive. Okay. Let's do the top 3 then. So what do you think are the top 3 that we need to be thinking about when we meet someone? Especially for the first time, but any time you're in communication. Eye contact, yeah, gave that one away. Yeah. Yes. Nice. So 1, 2, 3, right? Let me see if I've got it here. No, I don't. Okay, so eye contact. In this country, 60 to 70% mutual eye contact creates trust. 60 to 70%. 100% freaks people out. 0, no trust. Okay, so this is your challenge because tonight you're in clusters. Okay, there's going to be 2 people, 3 people, 5 people, 7 people. You don't know how many people in the group. My observation from watching people network over the last 20 years is they only ever look at the person that just asked them a question. So with your eyes, you're already discluding everyone else that stood there. And you do the same thing in meetings. Someone asks you a question, you give the answer back to that person. Think about that for a second. You're all stood there. Okay, so this is a behavior that needs to change because you're going to build more trust with everyone. So let's say we're all in a little cluster tonight. You ask me a question. I will answer you, but I will also look at all of you. I want to keep everyone in the conversation. I want to keep them engaged. Okay, so catch yourselves on that. And because you're a group that's now going to be working together all year, do you give each other permission to very quietly pull you aside and point it out if you do that? Very tactfully, respectfully, do you give each other permission to go, hey, I think you could do a bit more eye contact with the bigger group? Because honestly, this is an unconscious thing. You don't even realize you're doing it, but it's going to have a huge impact on how people see you. So it's something you need to change quickly, and the best way to do that is to call each other on it very nicely. Okay, because it's a bit hard when you hear feedback that you haven't done something, you know. But just remember, or remind them, go, eyes. Have a code word. Okay, so 60 to 70% mutual. Smile. There is a mirror neuron in the brain that when I give a genuine smile, that person smiles. And science has proved that the more you smile, the more people like you. Good for relationships. Okay? So that's an easy one. But the thing with the smile is it has to be genuine. If you are always smiling, you will get caught out because someone might change the conversation to be something not that nice and you're still stood there smiling. And I have seen that happen. Okay? So it's got to be genuine, listening to what the content is of what you're hearing. Now, to have a genuine smile for the mirror neuron to work, you've got to get 2 things right. If I say cheese, what am I doing? I am fake smiling because only these muscles are working. So in your face you have orbicularis oculi and zygomatic. Orbicularis oculi runs this way, zygomatic runs this way. You're lucky I didn't just draw on myself then. Okay, now genuine smiles, like what you just did, includes the eyes. If your eyes smile and your mouth smiles, that's when the mirror neuron triggers. If people see you doing this, fake alert. So just watch that one as well, right? But yeah, smiling creates that bond. Handshakes. Have you actually been taught a handshake? Yeah? Who? Who's taught you? When did you learn? No one teaches it anymore.
I think, like, especially when you're younger.
Yes?
Like, especially father, son.
Yes.
Like, they go, shake your hand, you're always told if someone speaks to you, look them in the eye, shake their
Yes.
hand, and make sure it's
But they're not told anymore.
It's a lot of
My young ones are not told this anymore, these uni kids. Seriously, no one's teaching this.
Some do gangster handshakes or knuckles.
No, I just want the real. When did you learn?
I love doing knuckles.
With us or with your friends?
With my colleagues, it depends. Like, they're all my friends.
All right, everyone remember that. By the end of this year, you're all going to be doing knuckles with him. Yeah. All right, can I have a volunteer? I'm just going to really quickly run you through the perfect handshake, if you want. Thank you. Okay, so you need to copy me because we're just doing it as a thingy thing. All right, so right foot forward, ever so slightly. So I'm going to lean towards Joanna because I want to unconsciously show her that I'm into it, right? But if I lean past my toe, what message am I sending? Sorry, it's going to take a while.
You're going to fall over.
Yeah, I might fall over, but also I'm a bit overbearing, aren't I? So you never lean past your front foot. Okay, so we lean, we lock eyes, which we're doing already. Hand comes out. Now, can you see your hand with your peripheral vision? So you don't need to look down, right?
Yep.
Okay, so as you're coming in for the handshake, you've got the smile, perfect. Now, I am going to tilt ever so slightly here to grab the webbing. This doesn't make sense now, but it will in a second. If I get the webbing and then we grip, so your thumb comes down too, then it's 1, 2, let go. Australia is 1 to 2 pumps, no more, right? So lean, smile, 1, 2, let go.
Yep.
All right. Now, no, I didn't have to correct her elbow or anything. That was perfect. So you want to keep your elbow close to your body because, again, if you're coming out here or coming out there, you're sending a dominant message. So 1, 2, and now go harder. Hard, harder, 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 harder. Okay, it doesn't hurt. Why? Because we've got that perfect grip. Did that feel okay?
That was fine.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay, so just stand up for a second and give each other. Okay. So, did you just give each other a bit of feedback? Too hard, too soft? Again, do we have permission to do that with each other? All right, so if you notice something about someone in the group and you've learnt that there's a way they can improve it, please pull them aside and just let them know, okay? Because again, people make an impression so quickly. You do that and, you know, I've already gone, nah, yep.
Probably a sociopath question. How do you
Oh,
navigate?
I will brace myself.
How do you navigate or negotiate? So we just had a funny little thing here. I
Careful, because he might be a sociopath.
He's the one that wants to know where people. No, I shook Tegan's hand for more than 2. It wasn't 1, 2, because the first time we did that, I went to pull away from 2, and it was weird. It was like, oh, why are you pulling away? I'm counting to 3. I counted to 3 with both the Tegans and Jude.
Okay.
3 seemed natural. 1, 2, 3. See?
Oh, I think that's too much. Try it tonight. But sometimes it's just 1. It never really goes past 2, really. I think that was a bit much, personally. Plus, slightly firm. No. But again, see, firm could send a message of dominance. That's why I'm saying it. People are making... But if you get the webbing, that's where you've got a good opportunity to still go firm without hurting them. So, and that's where I say go firm, but not too firm. Like, don't try and clench down. Like, don't, you know, yeah, a lot of people do that because it's almost like they're more intently trying to say how pleased they are to meet you, but the message you're sending is, I'm really dominant. But you don't want to send that message. So just think about it from their perspective. But yeah, once you've got that webbing, did you all get the webbing? Did you get how that works? So if you tilt, see how I tilt? So I make sure I do it before because people are very quick to grip. And that's how you get the wrong handshake. Because if he starts gripping there, and then it's going to hurt, because you can get the bones. So that's why I do the angle. See how quick I come in at the end? I know this sounds really stupid, but it totally works. It totally works. And it makes sure that first impression is really positive. Yes?
We were talking the other back and I had a question, like, as females, I was like, do you guys change how you shake with other females compared to a male? And James pointed out that he mirrors the female.
Yeah, if I shake hands with a female, I'll let them initiate how tight they want to squeeze, and I'll just get straight to the same.
Okay, and if you can do that in that moment,
I don't
great.
want to come across as too dominant.
Yeah, and I think you do. Tim has quite a firm handshake, and we both gave him the feedback that it was probably a bit too much for us. I like the firmness, I just don't like the pressure. So there's a difference between firm and clasping down. So yeah, mirroring is good. What you will notice, ladies in the room, is when it's a women's only gathering, they don't even shake.
Yeah, that's cute.
There's no hello and how are you. It is mixed and in the blokes world,
And
but
why
not
do you
just
think
with
that
women.
is? Oh, 'cause I mentioned that.
Yeah.
It's generally been a male thing. And it's
Yeah.
not, but it was, and as you said, generally in the women's environment,
We don't even shake. I tend to, only because it's habit for me. I've come from a very male-dominated environment, and even with the kiss, like I'll always have a handshake kiss rather than just a kiss. I kind of don't know what to do with my hands if it's just a kiss. I feel really thin, so I still like the handshake and then the kiss. I'm not talking personally now here, I'm talking professionally. So there's, things that you need to be mindful of, but just always think about how they're going to perceive it. And your job is to come across as great as you can within seconds. Okay, so any other questions on non-verbal? So if you pull it all together, when you're looking at the invite, you look at the location, right? You look at the style of event. That's how you know how you're going to dress. So you've got to put a couple of things together before you show up. So a little bit of pre-research is going to help you. I was speaking at I think it was a Project Management Institute breakfast, and there was like 80 suits in the room. And this one guy, he was out of work and he'd come along because that was his space and he was looking to get hired, but he came up to me and he goes, yeah, I'm here because I'm looking for a job. Now, he was the only one in jeans and a t-shirt. So I'm like, so what message are you sending to everyone else who's here Friday morning before they go to work and they're in suits? Like, surely if you wanted to connect with them, you'd wear a suit. Not go, hi, I'm really casual because I've got nowhere to go. So the dress and all of that is going to be the full package. So some research on that. Yeah. So if you go to the mines, for example, you've got to change your dress totally. Otherwise they'll think, well, you're totally different from us. And yeah. Okay, so very much be aware of that. And there's lots you can read up on your non-verbal side of things as well. Okay, let's do verbal. Now, first question you're ever asked in a networking environment? That will go down as a really good one. I might use it as an example. Yeah. But the funniest thing was the reaction. They were like, okay. First question you're asked in a networking environment?
Name?
Yeah, so let's say we've done that. Yeah, so hi, I'm so-and-so.
Where do you work?
Yeah?
What do you do?
Yeah. Which one?
What do you do?
What do you do? Pretty much we found it's 99% what do you do or where do you work? Like that's straight to. So what type of question is that?
Pretty upfront.
It's pretty upfront. Very loaded. So I meet you for the first time and you've gone,
Worried about what they do.
so what do you do?
Yeah, can be judgy comparison. What do I do more important than what you do?
It's so judgmental. And again, people don't realise they're doing this because this is another Americanism. It's a quick, what do you do is the way we figure out if we're going to work together. Not here. Not here. We don't like it. In fact, I've watched people's body language when they're asked the question and they ever so slightly pull back. Like people just become quite defensive, and that's why we have I'm a finance manager at blah blah. Like we don't like it. We do not like being put on the spot. So one thing to take from today, or many things, but from this conversation is don't ask people what they do. So there's a bit of an etiquette here, right? When I'm networking, so I'll go back to this one. If I look at Tim's name badge, it says Timothy. Now, 9 times out of 10, people will go, Timothy, hi, Timothy, what do you do? And I'm thinking, if I'm Tim, and you are? Because at that moment, they haven't introduced themselves, they've just come straight in, looked at your name badge and gone for it, right? So get the etiquette right here. The first thing you do is, hi, I'm Julia.
Great.
Hopefully they'll go, hi, I'm.
Hi, I'm Tim.
Thank you. So if I say, hi, I'm Julia, usually, sorry, I put you right on the spot there, they go, hi, I'm Tim. Now, he's got Timothy written. He prefers Tim. He's told me he prefers Tim. If I was doing the whole, what do you do, and leaning in, I would never have known that. So for the rest of the night, I'd be calling him Timothy. Are we connecting here? No. He's hating me. Maybe. My point is, let them introduce themselves because they will tell you how to address them. So that's number one. Then, instead of what do you do, so let's say, Tim, I'll continue our conversation. There's me, there's Tim, right? If I go straight in and go, what do you do? Judgment, putting them on the spot, going straight into their world. Yeah? Do I want to go straight into their world and put them on the spot the second I meet them? No way. So what do I want to do?
Come to the middle.
I want to avoid me and I want to avoid them. So I'll put it to you another way. If 99% of people walk up to people and go, what do you do? Imagine if you're the 1% that actually makes them feel comfortable the second that they meet you, rather than put on the spot, right? And the way to make them feel comfortable is to go neutral. So what has nothing to do with me and nothing to do with Tim that we both have in common right now, totally neutral to us?
Where you are.
Yeah, so the event, yes.
Or what brings you here?
Say that again.
What brings you here?
So the host, probably, we're connected by, you know, how we are connected to the event. So let's say the host. What else?
Please don't say the weather. It's got to be the
You
worst.
said the weather. And technically, I have to put it up there, but I'll come back to it and explain it. What else? Neutral, but in common.
World event.
Not yet.
Parking?
Yep.
Cool.
Parking, transport, traffic, all that. Yep. Bear with me, I'll explain them. Just let's get them up. What else?
I feel like we're missing something obvious there. What are you
Yes.
supposed to say?
Yes.
But nobody's saying it.
Well, it's probably a breakdown of that, so. Yes, industry. Say that again.
Location.
Yes, the venue or location. One more.
Where do you live?
No. Never live that down. So, where do you live?
It's okay.
Straight in, right? Defensive. I'd answer that with Australia.
How are you? Too personal?
Do you know anyone here?
Yes, so how you connected to the host, that's a good one. Yes, so how you, yes. So that's around the host.
Who's
Catering.
And who said catering? Nice. Food and beverage. Okay. Now we have a list of topics that have nothing to do with me, nothing to do with Tim, right? So what we do is we can go anywhere here. So the people arriving tonight, it's very easy to say what you've just done. So we've just had a workshop, you know, talking about our soft skills or our social skills, you know, in particular. So, and here's another tip. Always give something first. So if you are asking where you live, and not as an opener, but somewhere down the track, like let's say it's in the conversation, always tell them where you live. So I live in blah, blah, blah. Whereabouts are you? Do you know what I mean? Like if you want to lower someone's guard, you give them something first. So I will always say something about it and then ask them. So if I'm talking about the traffic, oh, the traffic was horrendous. I can't believe that the blah, 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 blah. You know, I wonder if other people will be caught up in that. And then they'll go, yeah, I was actually. Da, 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 da. Now, what are we actually doing there? We're creating a bond. We both didn't like that experience. Oh, we've got something in common. So the reason that the weather can work is if it started pouring with rain the second we got here and we've both shown up soaking wet, we have something in common. Okay, so we talk about that. Oh my God, I can't believe I didn't bring an umbrella. Can you believe it? My brand new shoes are soaking wet. Probably not to a bloke, but you know, that would work with a woman. Now, so you only talk about the weather or the traffic, transport, parking if there's an issue with it. If there is nothing going on with the weather, like today, don't mention the weather. Go here, 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 here. Got it? And you know what I find as well, if you go to an industry event and that person's never been to that thing before and you've never been, that's a bond you stick together, right? So you can find things here to connect you. Now the good news is they're really relaxed now and you've spent a couple of minutes just going neutral. Technically this is small talk, but this is small talk with a bit more purpose because we're actually having, like we're narrowing it to where we're at. We're not doing small talk as in global events and what's happening. Because for me, I think that's too much of a jump. You know, did you happen to see the news today? It's like, huh, what? I'm just standing here with a beer. What are you talking about? So I feel like this neutral thing is just a bit, you know, easier to grasp. And then we might talk about other things. So the idea is, and again, if we had more time, this is probably an hour workshop where we talk about all the topics and how you get there and, you know, the types of questions you can ask, etc. But for now, if you guys just always go neutral, you will see a big change in how those conversations go. Questions or comments? Good? Can we try it tonight? Good news is you didn't have to research any of it.
Take a photo of that.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure you'll remember it. Speaker, topic. So the topic is also the launch, right? The type of event that we're at. The hosts, the sponsors. So there's lots of stuff that you can explore tonight which is neutral and safe, but yet people will find it comfortable to talk to you. Yeah. Good. Do you want to take a moment to think about how you'd answer the question, what do you do? Because you're going to get asked it forevermore, years to come. People are still going to use it as their opener. And rather than go, it'd be good to have a little bit of a reply to that. Okay? So when I'm thinking about what do, I want to think about how can I make this make sense to them so they remember it.
I might be jumping the gun, but I know I'm a consultant, so we tend to focus on why.
Yeah? So give me an example.
So my name's Joanne Fink. I'm a HR business partner, and what I do is I like to do HR differently for my clients.
Yeah. So that's an outcome. Yeah, so you're doing an outcome. Yes.
Is it
Yeah.
more what you actually do in your role than your role? Because when someone says what you do, people will just go, oh, I'm a safety manager, or I'm HR, or whatever. But if you actually explain what you do, it's actually given them context as to what you do.
That's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for a title. So the thing that I'd add to yours is the company. But what I'm looking for is I want to get rid of the title, because titles don't mean anything to anyone. I'm CEO of my company. Whoop-de-doo, I'm the only one. Do you know what I mean? Like, what does that mean? So for me, and you know, you might be safety manager of a company of 50 people, or you might be safety manager of a company of 40,000 people. There's a bit of a difference. So for me, titles, yes, they kind of bridge it, but I think there's a better way of doing it. So I would always go name, which you've hopefully already done in your introduction. I'd get rid of title. I would do company, and then I would do outcome. So what's the result of what I do? So, you know, I head up, so the language has to be very conversational rather than, so the other way of saying it is, you know how you read your mission statement, or your company's mission statement, and it feels very jargony and very buzzwordy and very cool. Because written, that's good. Now, if you ever tried to say your mission statement to somebody, their eyes will glaze over. And what I feel like a lot of what do you do's are read out mission statements. So what you've got to remember is you're in front of someone. So the language is, it's not I'm the director or I head up the safety team. And what we do is we focus on and then go outcome, outcome, outcome to make sure that right? And then it's conversational. Or if you are architects and you're standing in a high rise or you're somewhere where you can see something you guys have done or something similar, you go, if you look out there and you see that, we actually designed that. So what we do is we come in on the project, and you don't have to explain what an architect is to most people, but do you know what I mean? Like you can do if you look out there, you know how, what we find. So notice all that language is very conversational. So you want to just go in with something that their brains will remember. And you do, whoever said context, you've got to give the context first because otherwise they can't follow the examples. So let me just give you a couple of minutes to write down one that would work for you for tonight. Okay, how could you describe who you are and what you do? Okay, maybe say beers are cold. Okay, so remember that the most important thing is that you position yourself here, right? What do you do? Now, I know I said don't say title, but there's a way of saying a title without saying a title, like I head up or I'm part of this team. So get that up front because what I need to understand is the context, the high-level context first, so the team and the company, and then you can say things like essentially what that means is, or, you know, my role varies, what I predominantly find myself doing is. Or if you're really casual, you know, what I absolutely love about that is I get to bang, bang. Yeah? So how did you guys find that when you were listening to each other's? Was it helpful? Did you get good feedback from each other? Okay, so tonight's a really safe networking environment. Everyone here is to support you. You know, this is the launch of a program that people have all committed to, including all your leaders. So this is a safe environment to try these out. But do make sure you get that positioning because I want to know who I'm meeting. I don't want to go look you up afterwards and go, why didn't they tell me they were actually the head of that? You know, because I think that's, you know, there could be issues there. So make sure you are comfortable to do it. Test out different versions if you want to today. Use different language. But definitely do the conversational thing. Don't revert back to job title company. I'll be eavesdropping on that one. Does anyone want to say theirs to the group? Is anyone comfortable to share theirs?
Sure. I'm Tim. I work for and control CSM. I lead a team that embraces innovative improvement methodologies to provide industry-leading customer-focused solutions, which is an absolute mouthful.
Okay.
I'm egregiously long-winded at the best of times.
Okay, so remember no buzzwords. Okay? Because who can tell me now what Tim does? Don't comment.
He's got the emails.
In 5 minutes, you know, could someone tell me back what Tim does? Honestly?
It sounds more like, you know, that sounds like a mission statement.
Yeah, that is exactly what it was. Yeah. And my brain shuts down with buzzwords, and so does everyone else's. So, and you know, do you mind if we talk about it?
No,
too late.
By all means, it'll help.
So where did you say? Oh, did you say I work for? You haven't written it, but.
Yeah, no, I figured I wouldn't forget that one.
Yeah. So, what do you guys think of I work for? I work for? What do you think of the language?
Yeah, I go
I'm with. So if we're making it conversational, I work for just feels very
Mercenary?
Yeah. Yeah, it really does. So yeah, well, you know. So what you want to be focusing here on is, are you a manager or part of a team?
Oh, manager.
Okay, so I look after the, what was it?
Quality.
Team? The quality team. See, I'll remember that. Okay, so I look after the quality team at?
And control, CSM.
Great.
Oh,
No, we're going to keep going.
I know.
And then, so by looking after quality control, what's an outcome of what you do? So think about your day. What did you solve today, or yesterday, or this week?
Overall, it's making sure that the things we put into boxes that go into hazardous environments don't blow up and kill people.
There you go.
Can you really
That-
have that in conversation?
yes.
I'll make sure our stuff doesn't
Yes,
blow up.
yes, yes.
Right.
And I reckon, so you've got to have the personality to pull it off. Do you know what I mean? I reckon you could do it. You've got to be comfortable with it, but that's it. That's memorable. I'll remember it. Look, I work with a explosives company, and we came up with, sorry for the, we blow shit up. You're going to remember it, right? They work out in the mines and, you know, that's what they do. So, yes, this can be a little bit fun. And if you're funny, be funny. If you're not funny, don't be funny. That's the worst, when you try and be funny and you're not actually funny. So if you can pull it off, pull it off. But yeah, that was so much better. Are you comfortable saying it?
Yeah, I
Can
know, thank you.
can you try it and just tell us tonight?
I'm Tim, I work around Control CSM, and I make sure the things we put in boxes that go in the hazardous moments, they blow up.
I love it. I want you to try it with someone that's not us, yeah?
If it crashes and burns,
Come
I'm
and find me.
absolutely going to have a grievance.
I'm still here. I'm still here tonight. If it crashes and burns, I will sit with you in a corner and we'll have a cry and then we'll work on another one. It won't crash. It won't, yeah. It won't crash. That's awesome. So can you see how we took something that wouldn't have landed and made it land? So when in doubt, think about your week, think about your day, think about the highlight and kind of say that. Because you can't, if you're a consultant, you're never going to cover it all, right? But you want to think about, you know, recently we worked with blah, 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 and what we did is blah. So you might want to give a relevant example. Because people remember that. Stories, you know, you've heard stories are memorable for people. That's how they learn. Okay, very good. All right, so let's go into our last, what did I do with it? Here we go. Last step. Now, if you didn't do this step, so let's say you figured out who your network was, figured out where the gaps and opportunities are, then worked on your connection skills, worked on, you know, how to be better at non-verbal, verbal, how to promote yourself, position yourself, etc. And then you meet someone. If you do nothing with that, that was a waste of 2 hours of your life. And I can tell you that 71% of people don't follow up with people they meet in this environment. And there's a whole bunch of reasons for that. 1, you met the wrong person. 2, you feel like you can't follow up. 3, you didn't qualify why you were following up. You know, there's so many. But if you actually put the plan into place at the front, so I want to make sure I know who's coming. So who has the guest list for tonight? No one?
There was a guest list.
Did you? There's always a guest list.
Is it in that book?
Okay, you've just... Louder.
You have to answer for the guest list.
Everywhere you go, there's a guest list. They're not going to publish it. They're not crazy. But if you've just joined a Future Leaders program, and you are going to the launch event, would it make sense 24 hours ago or 48 hours ago to contact the organisers and go, in preparation for the launch, I would love to know who else is going to be there. Now, obviously you're going to meet you guys, but I'm talking about these guys. And then, once you've got that list, because I bet you they'll share it because you're a part of the program. Now, if you contacted Consult Australia or one of the industry bodies and did that, you might not be so lucky. But here's what I can tell you. Spam laws and privacy laws don't stop them from giving you job title and company. So if they won't give you the whole list, go, no problem, I understand if you've got your whatever conditions. Could you just give me the company names and job titles, or job titles and company names? If they refuse that, just company names, because you will know from scanning that who's relevant and who's not. And then what do? Do some research, so you're not just showing up blind. Now, worst case scenario, you cannot get your hands on this list. What do?
Show up blind.
Show up 15 minutes early. So if we were at a chamber event or an industry event, guess what's right on that table? All the names. Show up early, study it. Work out 3 people or 2 people that you want to connect with that night. So start making these things more meaningful for you. Okay? Because that's what's going to affect your follow-up rate. If you go in there willy-nilly and you don't know who you're talking to and you leave it all to chance and accidental, then of course it's not going to be... And you might walk away with some business cards, but you don't know what the opportunities are because you didn't really get into those conversations. So then you don't feel comfortable following up. You get me? So you should only follow up with those that you kind of qualified or you agreed that you were going to follow up. There's a time frame, by the way. So let's say it's Thursday night. When do we follow up from today or tonight's event? Tomorrow when? I know this, again, sounds thing, but this is all perception, right? Tomorrow morning, what message does that send? Bit keen? Just a little bit. It's efficient, but it's keen. What do you think would work? Yeah, lunch onwards. Right, and given it's a Friday, it's got to be tomorrow because by Monday, they've forgotten all about it. If we were at a 2-day, 3-day thing, when do you follow up? Say what? Yeah. So if you've been away at something or if it's been a longer duration, you give it more time. You want them to get back, clear all their to-dos and then hear from you. So it totally depends on the duration of the event and the length of it, as same thing, as to when you follow up. Sorry, the other thing it depends on is the location. If everyone's away for it, again, if they've travelled, but you get the gist, right? So then we're following up. Now, what do we say when we follow up?
Just following up.
Nice meeting.
Yep.
Give some context to what you discussed.
Yeah. So hopefully you
Trigger a memory of yourself.
exactly of that night or of a conversation you've had, because what that does, it instantly creates the rapport that you had. So if you were the 1% that had the conversation that wasn't putting them on the spot and then you had a really good conversation after that, you want to trigger that. And now how do I follow up? What communication method would we use?
Email, don't call me, I don't want to talk to you.
No, phone call.
Okay.
Phone call.
Phone call's more personal, and depends how you want to make it. You know,
I would have
email-
thought after just meeting someone, it'd be an email, maybe to start off with. If
But-
it hasn't developed, you might get more.
Okay,
Depending on who gets 150 emails a week or more.
exactly. Here's what, there's no right or wrong here. What you are doing though is you're putting your personal preferences there. That doesn't necessarily mean that's how that person communicates. So be careful when you put your personal preferences. What I would say to you is choose the communication method that suits the outcome that you want. Okay? So if I've chatted and there's an opportunity and we want to sit down and have a beer or have a coffee or have a lunch or something, phone call. Because we'll both have diaries, we'll get that sorted, we'll get it in. If we've met but we have no idea what the potential is, but we thought that there was something, email. It is appropriate, you know? So don't be quick to just judge what you're going to do. Figure out what's best. And then the whole LinkedIn and the social things, I personally feel like you need to have a few encounters first before connecting on LinkedIn. I know that's not everyone's traditional way, but in a relationship sense, in a professional sense, that actually is more meaningful than I meet you and I put you on LinkedIn straight away. Different in this context. So if you have speakers and you want to connect with them, then it makes sense to do it on the spot because otherwise you're going to forget. But for you guys in industry, there's a bit of a courting kind of thing that happens where you can do the personal message and go, you know, I think I say something like, you know, it's really been great to see you recently. How about we connect on here too? So it's like that's a secondary thing to the fact that we actually have a relationship. Okay, so the main thing here is to find something you can help them with or invest in what we call reciprocity, which is doing something for other people. That's a really good way to operate, and when we talk about raising your social capital, reciprocity is one of the key things that you will learn to do that. So I'm not going to go through that because they've asked me to go a little bit over, but I'm conscious that people are arriving. So let's do one more discussion on your visibility and social capital. So go to the slide where you've got this because it's easier to read there. So you're probably familiar with human capital. That's your individual competencies. So that's, what you studied, your education, your abilities, your experiences, right? We've all got that. And we constantly, all the technical training you do, that's building your human capital. As leaders though, and what's going to make us different as leaders going forward is how we demonstrate and how we engage in our social capital. So these are your relational competencies, and they're often missed. There are some workplaces, I know people that their boss will walk in and out without even saying hello. Might be very capable, lacks total social skills or people skills. How many people are going to stay loyal in that organisation, in that team? Not many, right? So a lot of the stuff here is fundamental to why people connect. And if you want to create influence, so if you want people to work with you, do things, then this is how you get that. So what we could do is just spend probably 2 minutes brainstorming. And again, go to your groups, because I know we've talked about a lot of things, but literally everything we've talked about today we'll put together in some ideas. How could you raise your social capital to your network, the one that we mapped? So what are some examples of things you could do straight away? Starting tomorrow, I guess, but straight away-ish. So do you know what I mean? So find things that would demonstrate this. And honestly, saying hello and goodbye is one of them. Thanking people is another. Like, think about all the things you value in good leaders, what makes them different, using people's names, all that stuff. So maybe each group come up with 3, and then we'll rattle them off, share them, and head out for some drinks. Okay. So, my grandfather was a bit of a philosopher, or we like to think of him as a philosopher. He was actually a beer brewer by trade, but that makes you very philosophical, I think. And one of his sayings was "Ruka ruku meye," not English. Does anyone recognise it or understand it?
Say again, please.
Ruka ruku meye. Okay, ruka ruku meye. So what it means is check. And what it means is one hand needs the other hand to wash. And I tell you that because in life we try and do things ourselves. You're powering on and you just... But at the end of the day, we live in a tribe. We live in a society. And if you can find the right people to work with you on the right things, your life, their lives will be so much better and easier. So we actually need each other. This is how our brains are wired, and this is how we operate. So it is really important for you to think really strategically about the people that you want in this magic network, and then put the time and effort into nurturing those relationships, because I can't even possibly quantify the outcomes stood here. Like, everyone, gets different values from different things. We do know profitability and productivity of organisations are dramatically increased the stronger people's internal networks, so that's one great one. But I just think you as individuals get so much more from what you do, having that support system with you. And it's little things like people that are, what is it, when you go to jail and let's say you come out of, so the stats that they've done around rehabilitation or going, be repeat offenders, that's the word I was looking for, it's been a long day. So what they know is the people that have a very strong support network when they come out don't offend again, but the people that have no network or any support often find themselves back in. Same with colds and viruses. Ironically, they've done another masses of studies that say that if you have really strong support networks or friendships, you get sick less. So there's all of these benefits, not just the ones that we've kind of talked about here. There's a lot of intangible benefits as well. So remember that when you're operating out there, and do really deliberately think about how you engage, how you're present, the time and effort you give to people. I believe that the outcomes will be 10 times what you originally thought. So that said, would you please give us some examples of leaders that you've worked with or things that you've done that have really inspired you in terms of people's social capital and things that have worked for you? So I'm going to go all the way around because I think these are really here. Look, from what I've seen, and I've deliberately asked you to step up today. You know, that example of who will come out, and you came out. That example of who will read theirs. These are all deliberate things I did today to see who's going to rise up, because there's something here about you owning something and being visible. So you could be a room of 25 or whatever, and you could never speak, and that's why I went around then. Or you could be contributing now. Who are you going to remember? Everyone's going to remember Tim and what he does because he put his hand up. Now, we can't do everyone's. So sometimes you just get those moments. Do you know what I mean? So if leadership is in your horizon, everything you've just said is spot on, and I do think you've got the makings of that. But let people get to know you. So do ask the questions. Do volunteer for the things, because visibility is actually a key part of that journey.
There's just one I really want to mention.
Yeah.
It was to demonstrate humility.
Yeah.
Like constantly, it shows that you care and show that you're willing to learn. It lets people see that you're approachable, and they'll bring ideas to you, and it could benefit yourself personally or professionally.
Always, and I think the best leaders are the ones that take everyone's ideas and then do something rather than leading that. And that's what this is: viewing leadership as a position with responsibility. Taking a partnership approach, right? So we'll do it together rather than me telling you. Working as coaches, and also managing the paradox now of competition versus collaboration. So there's some really great stuff there that you guys can go out and put into practice. The main thing though is don't leave this to chance. I do want you to have a more deliberate, more strategic approach to it. Think about where you're going, think about what you're going to say, think about who you're going to meet, put a bit of a plan behind it. And that's pretty much it for me. So I guess I'm now going to leave it for you guys to continue the networking journey for the rest of the year, and I'll hopefully see you at the end at the dinner. If you do have any questions or something comes up and you want an opinion or something, please get in touch with me directly, okay? Email me or call me. I am part of this journey with you, and I want to help you embed everything that we've learnt today. So please get in touch with me. You can get my details from Tegan or Marin, or you can look me up. But I really hope that I've helped inspire you guys today to be more relationship focused. I'm looking forward to networking with you tonight. And so until then, thank you very much.